Okay, so I think this guy is in jail, and from jail he sent his mom. He wrote a poetry. Okay, he wrote a poem directed at his mom. Okay, I suck at translating poetry, but I think this poetry was so epic that it deserves to be translated. Okay, I need to make an attempt at translating it. Okay, so bear with me. Puya, help me out here if I make any mistakes, and Kian as well. Um, but this is pretty brave because they have him and he's like saying words like this, like he's on record of sending out this poetry. Okay, so this is pretty intense. Okay, this is pretty brave. So let's see what he's saying in his poetry to his mom. And the title of the poetry, oh yeah, he's a political prisoner. So his name is Abdul Rasul Murtazavi. He's currently a political prisoner in Iran, and this is the poem that came out of prison to his mom. And the title of the poem is A Letter to My Mom. And the mom, don't put your foot in a mosque. Okay, so the title saying, mom, don't put your foot inside, don't go into a mosque, don't go to the mosque, basically, don't go to the mosque. Okay, so let's see what the poem says. Like, mom, don't go to a mosque. He's saying, I know that you look for God inside the mosque. So that you could be a good person, so you could be like one of the people of heaven. So you could move away from the stresses, so that you could separate yourself from the stresses of the world. But wait, mom. That mullah inside of the mosque that you pray behind, that mullah in the mosque that you sit and listen to his speech, that mullah inside the mosque has sent your son to prison, and has sent your child to prison, and has sent the children of Iran to prison. چه فرقی می‌کند با حمایت از حاکم مستبد یا با سکوت در مقابل جفاکاری او؟ Either by supporting the dictatorial ruler like Khamenei, or by saying nothing. Basically, all of these mullahs, basically, they support the authority of the people who put us in jail. They're like, he's saying the goal of all of the mullahs is one thing. All religious authorities is one thing, is to delude people and to steal power away from them, to maintain power. مادر، آخوندها اگر جاهل نباشند فقیه‌اند. Like, mom, the mullahs, if they're not idiots, if they're not stupid, then they are evil, they're malicious. So basically it's either because they're stupid or they're malicious. آخوند حکومتی با آن همه عقده‌های فروخورده معلوم است که لذت ریاست را با تمام دنیا عوض نمی‌کند. Like a mullah would never replace, will never give away the taste for power. Hold on one second. معلوم است که لذت ریاست را, like, because of all the desperations and all the a mullah would never give up power. با تمام دنیا عوض نمی‌کند. Yeah, a mullah will never give up power. او برای حفظ قدرت حاضر است از جان ناقابل، جسم ناقص و آبروی عاریتی خود نیز بگذرد. They would do everything to keep their power. چرا که به خوبی می‌داند که در یک نظام مردم سالار جایی برای ارزاندام دین فروشان نادان در عرصه حکمرانی وجود ندارد. He says because they know if there was any country that was run by the people and it was for the people, there would be no place for people who salesmen of religion. در عرصه حکمرانی وجود ندارد. تجربه 40 و چند ساله جمهوری اسلامی پیش روی ماست. Like we have had experience with the Islamic for 40 plus years with the Islamic Republic of Iran. Like what else has to happen for us to get rid of such people with no shame? And send them back where they came from. Like these people do nothing but make enemies of us of each other, like turn us into enemies of each other and bring poverty upon us and send us to jail and murder us on both in both land and sky. I mean he's talking about taking away both worldly things and spiritual things away from us. I think that's what he means. Like he's saying, my mother, for the love of God, do not step inside a mosque. عبدالرسول مرتضوی 8 بهمن ماه 1400 زندان رجایی شهر. Okay, and he said he signed the poet by his name. He said his name, the date, and the location, which is in this prison right here. This is where he is. This is where he is when he was recording his poetry. This is a prison, Rajai Shah prison. All right, that was that. Yeah, that's pretty intense. Like when you're already in jail and you put out, like you send out a recording like that. I don't know. That's pretty, like, you know, I think most people when they're in jail, they want to be on their best behavior, not to make things worse for themselves. Yeah. By the way, guys, like I did not do that poem justice. Like you guys are saying it's powerful. I wish you could I wish you could understand it in Persian, because that was a pretty it was pretty intense the way, like if you guys could speak Persian, it was pretty nice. Beautiful. Wow, really? Brother Ben is saying the famous prison of torture? Really? That's it. That's what that prison is known for? Whoa, we got a super chat from our own CEO, Susanna. Thank you so much. $5 super chat. Susanna is saying, what is your impression of how the generations that were adults during the revolution think about what has become of the country nowadays? Well, what we see is like a lot of protests. Okay, so a lot of protests were the people who did the revolution. If I see a video of a chant like this, I will show it to you guys, right? People saying like, say, ما اشتباه کردیم. Like, we made a mistake. Like people regretting the revolution, saying that we made this. And I see a lot of people from the previous generation with a lot of videos coming out and asking for our generation's forgiveness, right? Because they are basically, my parents' generation was the parent generation that is responsible for the revolution, and our generation is a generation that is like paying for that. They say, well, not me specifically, but my generation in Iran, right? And there's a lot of videos of people from my parents' generation begging for forgiveness for what they did to the country, and for what they like, we didn't know what we do. You're paying the price for our mistake, right? So there's a lot of that, and there's a lot of chants. So like you see a lot of protests like Ma Ishtabah. What's the second part of the chant? This first part of the chant is like Ma Ishtabah Karim. I don't know what the second part is, but the first part means like we made a mistake. Yeah. But if you want to see stats on how many people think that, then I think we could refer to the Gammon Institution. They have some amazing stats on how many people, you know, are in favor of the revolution and how many of them not. I mean, some people argue like even when the revolution happened, the population, the number of people that came out was really high, but it's still like, it's insane. Like if you watch the videos, it's like a sea of people. Like is however, what percentage, they're still not the majority of the people. Like I don't know, actually, I don't know how many people. That doesn't really show what percentage of the people at that time supported the revolution. Lucifer saying, what happened to him now after this message? I have no idea. I don't know. Did the mom get the poem or was it confiscated? Well, it was an open poem, so it's out. So it's out in the open for everybody. It's an open poem, I think. So obviously she got it because I mean we got it. If we got it, she got it as well, right? Here's the full chant. ما اشتباه کردیم چه اشتباه کردیم. Oh, it's basically repeating the same thing twice. Like we made a mistake. What a mistake we made. Wow, actually that makes it more powerful. Like how grand of a mistake it was. So ما اشتباه کردیم means we made a mistake, and then the second part is saying چه اشتباهی کردیم means what a mistake we made. So the first one is addressing that it was a mistake, and the second part of the chant is acknowledging that it was a grand mistake. It was like we made a huge mistake. Oh my God, that's very powerful. Yeah, that's actually sad, very sad. And I'm saying it is sick house. The same is brewing up in Pakistan and India. Yeah, actually, well, I mean, I think more so in Pakistan as well, right? Yeah, actually, you're right. It's very similar what's happening in Pakistan. Actually, the difference is that the Iranian people who did the revolution of 1979, they weren't really aware of how Islamic the Islamic revolution was, and they didn't know. They only knew that they only paid attention to the language of justice, democracy, freedom. That's why they came out in protest, right? I think the Pakistani situation might even be worse if it's successful, because the people who are protesting in Pakistan, they're not being fooled. They actually want an extremely Islamic rule over people, right? The people in Iran, they were fooled. They were lured into the protests with the language of democracy, freedom of speech, you know, freedom of assembly, justice, those and they're like, okay, if Islam is going to be the tool for us to get all of that, let it be Islam. Okay, but Islam was not really the goal. Islam was a vehicle. We were like, we have no other vehicle to stand against the Shah, apparently, other than these mullahs who have all their mosque and all their resources and all the facilities and all the managerial connections and everything that we need to be able to mobilize against the Shah. So, we'll just use their support to do this. But the main thing that lured people out into the streets in Iran was the request for justice and freedom of speech and stuff, and democracy, and voting and stuff like that, right? It wasn't supposed to be like this. They didn't know it was going to be like this. The problem with Pakistan is they know they want an Islamic government and way more strict than what we have in Iran. That's insane. The Pakistani protesters, not again hashtag not all Pakistani, the ones that are part of Hizb ut-Tahrir or whatever other, or Taliban, Pakistani Taliban, or all those other supporters of all these groups, they want that. They want an extremely Islamic either caliphate or emirate or whatever they want to call it. So, yeah. Wait, no. What did I say? I said Hizb ut-Tahrir. No, I meant Tahrik. What is it? What is that? The TLP in Pakistan? I got my groups mixed up. Tahrik Labbaik. Tehreek Labbaik. Yes, Tehreek Labbaik. Yeah, TLP. That's what's happening in Pakistan. I hope, I don't know what's gonna happen there. Yeah, Lucifer, I don't know. Lucifer saying, say how many percentages will it take to determine for it to break? Well, it was back then, the numbers that was needed was lower than now, right? Because let's say, I'm just making numbers up right now, okay? If you needed 10% of the people or 5% of the population to be in the streets to be able to topple a regime back then, let's say it was 2% or 3%. Right now, it needs to be a lot more than that, because back then the amount of the technology that the armed forces have access to was a lot less back then. So the relative power of the people versus the armed forces was, it was easier to topple governments. Right now, the tanks are a lot more sophisticated, helicopters are a lot more sophisticated, the guns are a lot more sophisticated. So being able to suppress people with a lower percentage of support is easier than it's back then. So whatever numbers of people you need in the streets to be able to topple the government, I think the percentage is now more than it was before, right? So unfortunately, that's the thing. Anyways, oh yeah, there we go. Somebody is Tahrik Labbaik. Tahrik Labbaik, Pakistan. Tahrik Labbaik. Am I saying it right? I know I'm not using the vowels correctly. Just TLP.
Hey guys, if you want to join these streams live, get your comments and questions read by Ali and Armin and the guests, and most importantly, to get full access to the full video versions of all these episodes, become a patron. Link in the description below.